Zone Dragon X, who the favorites were.
KT roster.
Heat it up, give me all of your love. Give me all of your love, give me all of your love. 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 Give me all of your love.
네, 어느새 2월의 마지막
Welcome back,
날입니다.
guys. This is
2019
the last
LCK
day of
스프링
February
6주차
and
목요일 경기를
the 6th week
인사드립니다.
of
안녕하세요,
LCK
김민아입니다.
2019
네,
Spring
그리고
Split.
오늘 경기 전 이슈들
And we're
분석
going to be
함께할
having a preview
국도님
at LCK with
배란님
Mina Kiin,
안녕하세요.
and Victory and Mingi-ho, Mad Life.
2주차 이제 1라운드
This is season with
시작하고
today's
나서
translation.
목요일 경기로 처음으로 만나뵙게 됐어요.
Finally,
5일에서
we
4일로
got
근무
rid
시간이
of matches
바뀌었는데
on Wednesday. And
좋으신가요?
we're having 4
아쉬우신가요?
matches in a week.
사실은 좋은 게
Maybe
없다라고
we're
하면
8 matches.
거짓말이긴 할 것 같은데 그럼에도 불구하고 이제 월화수 무려
So,
3일이
we are getting 3 day-offs now.
확실히 좀 시간이 잘 안
So
가는
we are
느낌도 들고 좀
having more
허전하고
time
그런
to
느낌이
kind
드는
of
것
네, 메라님은
take a
남은
rest
경기
and
어떻게
do other
예상하시나요?
stuff. But it's really sad that we are not able to see more games at LCK. And Mad Life talking about playoffs. You know, it is almost a month away from a
네,
playoff, so I think the competitive will be more fiercer than ever.
자, 경기 시작하기 전에 지난주까지
Before going
이슈들
into
먼저
today's series,
살펴보는 시간
let's check out some of the
갖도록
issues of
하겠습니다.
last
지금부터
week.
만나보시죠.
Griffin,
그리핀이 이렇게까지 해낼 줄은
they are on
네, 본인들의 기록을
9 matches winning streak, and they are on the highest record currently at LCK.
각종 명장면을 표출하고 오죽하면은
Currently, they're at 17 points in the lead.
너무 잘하다.
They're on the first place, and they're the dominant.
압도적인 경기도
I mean, they seem like the most favorite team to be the champions of LCK Spring Split.
그 샌드박스에게 한 세트 내준 게 전부죠.
It seems like they're unstoppable, and we're not sure actually who can really take them down.
그래서 1라운드 끝나는 당시에 2위, 3위 팀의 승점을 합친 거랑 같다.
And moving on to Afreeca
네,
Freecs,
그리고 정말
Kiin totally won versus everyone on that series, you know. He was solo carrying the matches on his own.
그렇습니다. 긴 선수도 본인의 기록을 본인이 깨는 느낌이었죠. 지난 경기에서 루시안으로 하는
He actually did 40k damage on Jace that day. But at the interview, he said he just did play that he was supposed to do, and some of the fans are actually crying
서포터즈로서
after
이제
that series.
탑이 게임에 영향이 있긴 하지만
And Mad Life said
네,
that he
이렇게까지
was really
있을 줄 몰랐는데
amazed
일단
by
그리고
his play,
5년 만에
especially about the
정글
damage
진짜
he did.
저는 좀 회의적이긴 했거든요.
And about the
순간에 탑을
in
쓰겠지
jungle,
했는데
Mad Life is saying about he was actually not really sure whether that would be really viable in competitive games, but he was really amazed by the plays and the engagements on Riven and Vladimir over there. Especially, Riven was able to kind of punish the SK Telecom's mistakes in the game, in the late game. Moving on to second round, there were a lot of new faces joining LCK. Afreeca Freecs had about 3 more players in their second round rosters. And also 4 more people on second round roster. And also SANDBOX, Diamond Gaming, and Griffin added 1 more players in their team. Flame, he actually had his first competitive game back in LCK in a while, but he had a very successful one.
이렇게까지 잘할 줄 솔직히 몰랐어요. 솔직히
Like that, he wasn't really expecting this much from him, but he was really awesome. And Vittori is saying about he was really bad at landing his ultimates, but you know, all the other things were so perfect and clean, and he was actually the one carrying the game. And Flame actually saying, "I carried." Over there. Seems really satisfied and happy. It's really always interesting to see all the players, their mic checks, so we'll be looking forward to seeing more of it. Vittori is saying about Flame's performance, and also Flame actually didn't really have enough time to practice, and Salmon was in a bit of a downswing, so actually it was more about Flame for doing the shot calls and maybe adding some new atmosphere to the team, but it was very effective, and Flame was performing even above the others' expectations. So those were the issues of last week, and let's move on to the standings.
네, 부동의 1위 그리핀을 필두로 샌박 SK, 담원, 킹존이 서부리그에
the strongest team so far, followed by SANDBOX, SK Telecom, and Diamond Gaming. Well, the interesting thing is that Hana Life is actually keep going down, and they are currently in the Eastern League, but the competition in the middle rank is really fierce, so we don't know what can happen at the end of this week.
동률을 보여주면서 이 2라운드에 모든 게 달렸다고 생각해요.
Jovi and Dev are actually in a tie with 900 points for the first place. Besides Kiin's hard carry, actually Dev is the one who carries the team so hard, and you know, we all know about the Dev ending, the well-fed Dev AD carry closing out the game, so I think all the teams have to keep their eyes on Dev as well. And also we can say that Dev and Tusin are showing great teamwork, so maybe Dev can be the first place, even surpassing Jovi. This is KD standing for the top lane. Sword still in the first place, and followed by Toss, Summit, Roach, and Roscoe. Compared to other Griffin players, he's not that dominant, but still he's like double better than other players. Maybe that is because the top laners are always dedicating and sacrificing for the team. Tarzan is on the first place with 15 KDA. It's actually amazing that his KDA is really consistent, remaining around 15. So that is kind of the proof that his performance is very steady and also very strong.
시작점을 알려준 게 정글러거든요. 그래서 항상 수호 선수가 먼저 가면서
talking about Tarzan is the main player that engages all the team fights.
다 이겼다는 뜻이에요.
And he also usually prefers to build up to Guardian Angel. So which also means that he's the key player that opens team fights. KD dropped 27, but still seems untouchable to other players. It is actually interesting that FLICKR is back in the KD standings, according to its improved performance of last week. Moving on to the bot lane. Viper first place, followed by Nuclear, Teddy, Ghost, and Dev. MetLife Well, Ghost was actually
패배가 시작하면서
underperforming
약간
last week,
흔들린
you
것
know.
같았어요.
Other
안
thoughts
그래도
about
계속
it.
전승을 달리고 있었는데 이번 패배가 약간
Well,
너무 많이
this
넘어진 것
loss
같은 느낌이 나서
kind of
그래도
influenced
저는 잘할 거라
him too
생각하거든요.
much.
팀도 그렇고
but
그리고 이번에 데프트 선수가 또 진입했는데
he has to learn how to overcome all the struggles.
받쳐주는 킹존입니다. 자, 그리고
네.
투신 선수가
Lastly,
2위에 올라와 있어요.
Tusin is on the second place, interestingly.
투신이 강한 라인.
I think that is showing that depth and Tusin are the most strong players in the
자, 이렇게
Kingdom
해서
currently. They are strong enough to carry the team.
정말 다양한 일들이 있었고 또 승리에도 변동이 있었고 KD에는 새로 진입한 선수들 또 상승한
So this will
선수들까지
the
만나봤는데요.
end of all the
이번 주는
standings of last week.
9.4피치가 진행이
And
되죠.
moving on to this
굉장히
week, we
재미있는
are going
챔피언들이
into the
상영이 됐어요.
9.4
네,
patch.
언제나 상향과 이 하향이 같이 들어가게 되다 보니까 여러 가지 기대감을
So
갖게
those are
만드는
the
게
champions being buffed.
패치라서
It's
저희가 이제 주요
Rek'Sai.
내용만 요약을 해드리면 일단은 렉사이가 가장 핫합니다.
네.
I mean, Rek'Sai is the biggest issue of the current patch, and also the FLICKR. So with the synergy with the rune, Rek'Sai became an OP, so maybe she might be even worth the ban card. So we will have to check out today's series.
변경점이 정말 핫할 것 같고 그 외에는 이제 아지르, 나르,
Besides, there are champions that are being buffed. Azir, Nor,
네.
Hecarim, and Trundle.
뭐 저런 챔피언들이 바로 대회에 기용될지에 대해서는
And
저희가 좀
some of the
지켜봐야
champion
되지 않을까
updates
싶어요.
are here that got a lot of changes. It is
아무래도
close
그
to
기존에 이제는
buff.
좀 쓰지 못하겠다. 뭐 초식이라든지 여러
But
가지
usually
때문에
there were a
사용이
lot
안
of
되는
counter
거에
champions and
변화를
counter
할지언정
plays
이런 변화를
against
통해서
Jet,
뭔가
you know,
다양성을
and there were
키울 수 있다는 것
stopwatches.
자체가 결과적으로
But he
상이
got
아닌가 싶어요.
buffed a
그리고
lot,
최근에 이제
so
뭐 해외 대회에는
maybe
아예
it
이제
will be
조합을
able,
통해
we will be
가지고
able to see him
활용되는
on
모습도
competitive
나왔다
games.
보니까 예, 이 제드를 또 잘 사용하는 선수들에 대해서는 기대감을 가질 수밖에 없는 것 같습니다.
네, 이 페이커 선수의 제주가
So,
정말 상당한데
well, we have to
대한민국은
say we're looking
들고
forward
나올
to
거라고
seeing
예상하시나요?
Faker playing that,
일단
right?
좋은 기억을 갖고 있기 때문에 항상 팀에서는 그걸 카드
So
갖고
there
있으니까
is a really a
연구도 할수
montage
있다고
moment of
생각하거든요.
Faker, you know?
저는 또 이제
So
BDD
that can be a viable
항상
pick.
제대로
And
달려가지고
also
맞아요.
BDD,
네.
he's really
그것도
a
저는 기대하고
famous solo
네,
queues that
그리고
player, so
사일러스도 변경이
he's also
있었고,
looking forward to seeing him.
루시안이 하향이 되고 스레시도
Lucian
하향이
and
되고
Thresh
우르고시 또 하향이 되고
Urgot are
그렇습니다.
getting
이
nerfed.
친구들 중에서 제일 크게 영향을 받은 거 일단 우르고시일 것 같아요.
I mean, Urgot is going through a consecutive nerfs, so it will be really hard to kind of use it in the competitive games. But Lucian and Thresh, it is true that they went through some nerfs, but still their basic stats are so strong, so I think we can still see them on stage.
요즘 솔랭에서 우르고 잘 안 나온다는데 맞나요?
아, 네, 우르고
And
나와도
there
승률이
are
좋지 않고 아까 나왔던 이제 렉사이
item
같은 게
change over
정말
there.
구동의
SS
OP라고
River
불리고
got an
자,
update.
정수약탈자가 변경이 되면서 자야에 대한 기대감이
Its
엄청
attack
높아지고
damage
있어요.
increase and
지난주에
cooldown
텍스 선수가
reduction
써서
is unique
상당히
now,
좋은 활약
so
보였는데요.
actually a lot of people are looking forward to seeing its synergy with Zaya.
좋기 때문에 여전히 대회에서는 활용될 여지가 있고 저런
I mean, Zaya is back in meta, and she has good synergy with this item, so I mean, Victor's expectation is that there will be
전투의 열광이
more Zayas coming up to
예전에
competitive
있던
games.
그런 패시브랑 좀 비슷해졌는데 그래도 나오자마자 이게 너무 좋다.
핫픽스가 됐어요.
핫픽스까지 되면서
I mean,
많은 관심을 갖고 있습니다.
네, 자 이번 주 경기 일정까지
So
지금
this will
보고
be the
계십니다.
schedule for this week.
경기 있는 팀들도 그렇지만 저희가 일단은 5개 매치에서 4개 매치를
So,
줄어드는 거잖아요. 그러다 보니까
We have 4 match days now, so a lot of teams are having a long breaks. KT Roster and Griffin, they don't have any match this week, so we'll have to wait till next week.
네, 메라님은
looking
가장
forward to
기대되는
seeing
경기
them.
어느 날인가요?
In 2 weeks later,
저는 아무래도 일단 킹존이 요즘 기세가 오르고 있고
MetLife talking about Kingzone,
네,
so he's
약간
looking forward to
좀
seeing the Kingzone versus
킹존과
Arcane Telecom matchup,
킹존과
because,
하나
and also Kingzone versus Hana Life
전
Esports.
잘했다 생각하거든요 그 경기.
I mean, that is the
그래서
competition for the
자체가 너무
playoffs, so
진짜
it's gonna be
곤두박질이라서 이거는
there are gonna be so
많이
many
기대가
hypes around it, so
네,
he's looking
킹존의
forward to it.
바텀 라인이 제 값을 해줄지 메라님이 기대하고 계십니다. 자, 2019 LCK 20살 우리 스프링 스킬리.
This will be the end of today's preview show, and I'm gonna pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ji-Sun, and welcome everybody to another day of the LCK Spring 2019. It's me, Valdez, with Papa Smithy. We're going to be bringing you SANDBOX up against Afreeca, which is definitely a big matchup. SANDBOX a little bit on the downswing, Afreeca definitely on the upswing. But all these 9.4 changes, man, could bring so many changes to the competitive scene.
And you know, we have a Jin Air series in our second series, so definitely on paper you're saying, okay, where's my SKT, where's my Griffin, and I understand that, but I think 9.4 could be a pretty seismic change to the meta. A lot of the assumed things about 2019 Korean League of Legends are gone. For example, your Flex Assassins and your first pick Urgot are gone, so it's red side now way more OP. Rek'Sai is the only new first pick, first ban champion for me, so I'm very interested to see how the meta goes, where right now, the things you assume, the things that you could plug in about which teams are strong, which teams are weak. Yes, Griffin is still super good, and Jin Air is super bad. Everything else around that can change quite a lot.
Yeah, definitely can, especially towards the middle side. SANDBOX currently in 3rd place, and Afreeca, I think they're still in 7th place, but moves can be made here towards the end of the season. We can see here that they did face off in the 8th match, I believe, of the last round, or maybe it's the 9th one. Yeah, the 9th match was actually SANDBOX versus Afreeca for both these guys, and Afreeca ended up taking that one in a surprising 2-1 victory.
And you know what the fun thing is? We're like, okay, is this a season-defining victory for Afreeca Freecs? We actually don't know, because Afreeca backed that up with playing their sub-roster. Sun, Sanavi, all those other players came in, so we didn't actually get to see the Afreeca Freecs that took down SANDBOX, and now they get a do-over on patch 9.4, which seems to suit Afreeca way more than it seems to suit SANDBOX Gaming. Will SANDBOX be remembered as the masters of 9.1 and 9.2 and then fall off a cliff? It's possible, and we'll find out soon.
Take a look here. 2 teams of the biggest upset in round 1 are facing up against each other's kind of back-to-back. They did have the one game in between, and everybody excited to see if Afreeca can snatch another win, because you look at their other wins, you know, they did take out Genji 2-1, and then they took out Jin Air 2-0, but definitely, as you mentioned, the patch could come in here, and they could have something good against SANDBOX. So, also Vladimir, I don't believe there were any big changes to him on 9.4, should still be around here.
Last point is around Kiin, who they already mentioned on the analyst desk, that 40% damage contribution. Insane numbers on the Jace when these two teams faced a couple of days ago. Interesting thing about Kiin is, has there ever been a top laner who's really been such a bastion of carry in kind of stark contrast to the rest of his team? Often we see mid laners and other people 1v9ing, but Kiin has had those moments this season. He has been amazingly good and consistent on a roster who has been anything but consistent. Remember, they're -9. That means they have 9 more best-of-1 losses than wins, and yet Kiin is looking so damn good up top lane. We're looking at numbers here. DPM high for SANDBOX, again, a misleading stat, but what it does tell you is what we've been telling you the entire season. This team beats you in the early game and then beats you over the head with their early game lead, and if it's not big enough, that's where they tend to fall away. Can they find a way to recreate that on patch 9.4?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can fall from Sword, which is where they were at on that CG. Sorry about that. Definitely in 3rd currently, but you can see the KDAs that are going on here as, you know, Kiin doesn't have the highest when you look at it. Summit definitely with some big numbers. Looks like these colors are also kind of switched around with these things, but either way, let's take a look at some highlights. This is something that should be right on paper.
It does feel like 2019 is where stats have never meant less. Right now, I feel like they're very, very misleading. Remember, we have multiple games of Frostmancy thrown into some of the mid lane and bot lane stats, so it's very tricky to get too much from stats, and the eye test, I think, tells you a lot more. And SANDBOX Gaming trying to recreate the early season. They're still playing the Aatrox top lane. I think we'll see that from Summit. They definitely prefer that there. The Rek'Sai is the one I mentioned on. They have first picks, so theoretically first access to what feels like a new superpowered champion on a patch where there isn't too many of those.
Certainly feels that way. Take a look at some of these highlights. Dove, always reliable in the mid lane, basically dodges everything, and this is one match, or rather team fight, where you can see that SANDBOX finally having some good team fight synergy, but hasn't always been that way, whereas Afreeca definitely turning things around here in their season.
Afreeca Freecs, again, last time, notice the names here. Sol, Sun, they're not playing with the players that we know will be starting today. We know they're going back to the roster that beat SANDBOX Gaming a couple of matches ago. I don't know where you were at with your evaluation. I thought there were some good moments from kind of everyone this time. I thought my biggest surprise was Senan coming in as a 17-year-old support. Actually looked pretty damn good. I think I would love to see him combine with aiming at some point, but perhaps they're going to go for two distinct rosters. They stuck with Dread, they stuck with Kiin. Everyone else changed, and Ucal coming back into the lineup today, I think, will square up this team a lot.
Definitely feels pretty good. We'll have to see if he hops back onto Azir, as that was one of those champions we mentioned in the pre-show, has been buffed a little bit coming into 9.4, but the key player comparison definitely has to be in the top lane. Kiin all over this team, just trying to carry super hard, and Summit definitely one of the good surprises here from LCK Spring, doing a pretty good job for SANDBOX in the top lane.
These 2018 Afreeca Freecs teammates battle once more, and I love the stat we're showing at the bottom here. Solo kills, 3rd and 2nd respectively for the top lane. 9 solo kills so far this season for Kiin and Summit. Definitely a day where if it goes 3 games, we're expecting 3 solo kills. It's the sort of thing that can happen. Especially with Urgot, that pesky blocker in the top who's so good at not dying. Well, he's gone, hopefully.
Hopefully. I mean, you changed some stuff with this mana, and I think there's some kind of health thing with his W, but I don't know. He's still a good champion in my mind. Definitely hurts his laning a bit, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes as the players are lined up here. SANDBOX going to be starting off on the blue side. Big smile on Ghostface. We'll see if he can return to something like a Draven, a Lucian, try to carry his team, as he's definitely been one of those other guys on SANDBOX that hasn't had those carry pants on as of late.
Well, does he have the picks to do it? Because you look at the KDAs and the win-loss records and you delete all the champions that have been kind of heavily nerfed since the start of Season 9, and you get Draven from Ghost, Lucian from Ghost, and then for other players, you know, with the removal of Aatrox and Akali, I thought they were so good on those picks. Camille in the jungle is definitely a lot lower priority, even if OnFleek plays it. Waiting to see if they can recreate those levels on 9.4, as Afreeca Freecs, to confirm, are running the roster that took down SANDBOX, so the changes have begun in this case.
Jelly looking a little bit somber there, but he was one of the big pieces, especially in the bottom lane, that came in and began to surprise us, actually. And we were like, hey, this guy is actually pretty good on some of those engaged supports. His Gragas looked great. We'll have to wait and see if he can step up to the plate once again here, because they're going to need him down in that bottom lane up against Ghost.
One adjustment, of course, that roster, it will be SSol and not Aiming. Aiming won an MVP in that final game, but has not seen any gameplay since then. Made a lot of critical errors at going for SSol's experience and shot calling in lieu of Spirit no longer being in the roster. AR rolls out, Ghost, Dove, OnFleek, and Summit, and the Afreeca Freecs, and it's just a match that could once again go the full 3 games, and if it doesn't, maybe we actually get the final answer on whether Afreeca Freecs or SANDBOX have more candidacy towards playoffs, because I don't think both these teams will make it to the top 5.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Obviously, SANDBOX in a much greater position right now with 7 wins. We've said it before that you can sneak in with 9, 8 if you're extremely lucky and you win some tiebreakers. But 10 is really the number that you want to make it into playoffs. So they only need 3 wins right now out of, I believe, 8 more series that they have. So that's definitely doable for SANDBOX that still have some really highly mechanically skilled players in their roster.
Have at least a series against Jin Air there that you could pencil in. Everything else up in the air, though. Who is better, SANDBOX Gaming or Afreeca Freecs? A week ago, the answer was surprisingly Afreeca. SANDBOX won a show. That was just a blip on the radar. We start patch 9.4. No global bans, by the way, guys. So Yorick Mori is available. Ashe back to being available. Rek'Sai, the big pick here. Hugely buffed on 9.4 directly and indirectly. SANDBOX, they're showing they want to first pick him because right now in Korea, Nocturne is one of the few champions that's suggested can actually match the Rek'Sai by just farming to 6 and trying to counter gank.
Yeah, I mean, you and Cloud Templar were trying to brainstorm, you know, what other kind of champions could be good. Before this broadcast, you know, thinking of tanks.
What do you just play into her? That's the question, because she's so strong alone.
Exactly.
What you play into her, I think maybe Elise can be tried to be played, but both champions fall off in a similar way as the game goes on. Vladimir ban here to remove 1 carry champ from Kiin. His Silas will be left available so far. Final ban from Afreeca. Will it be the Rek'Sai? It won't. They're happy to play with fire.
They're playing with fire, and again, you have to think this is a change now. 9.4 has been around here in Korea for a bit, right? These players do have enough time to just relearn all those old Rek'Sai mechanics and be able to play that champion, but it really will come down to what they think about the champion right now rather than experience. They're going to try to get this Lucian for Ghost instead and hand the torch over to Afreeca.
Seems to me that SANDBOX don't actually have that same priority on the Rek'Sai. The thing here is that Ghost has got the wins on Lucian and Draven, and everything else has kind of fallen away. So at least because they first pick Lucian, Afreeca know they're safer to take Kalista, because Draven into Kalista can be a tricky matchup for her. So I think going for the entire bot lane here makes a lot of sense. Power picks, what are they with Urgot no longer being around? The Jace, certainly. Still that flex strength for top and bot, and that's how SANDBOX found so many victories. Early picking Akali, Aurelia, Aatrox, and all these other champions in earlier rounds of the draft, and going from there, they will stick with the Jace, and we're still waiting to understand where the Rek'Sai is, because if you look back at Challengers earlier this week, 100% contested. If you watch solo queue, 100% picked band in high elo. We think we're going to see a lot of Rek'Sai, but at least 5 picks in, she is definitely the elephant in the room.
There are definitely other very strong picks. I mean, you consider the Galio Kalista, extremely strong bottom lane right now, alongside Lucian Braum, which has it always been. You were talking about top lane, Urgot's kind of gone. Jace is going to rise in priority. It's one of Summit's best champions. They want to take it away from Kiin. So maybe they're just foregoing it for now, and especially because no jungle, unless Jace gets flexed here, has been picked for SANDBOX. We could even see it banned by Afreeca.
I wonder about the Jarvan, because over in the LEC, a lot of top lane Jarvan going Summoner Airy, Spirit support style, and poking in difficult lanes against Kennen and things like that. So that being done by Misfits, so as playing it. So there is a chance that the Jarvan will be flexed, but jungle Jarvan has been by far the norm over in Korea. SANDBOX, not believing it. They're going to ban away junglers here in the jungle pool. It's getting more Rek'Sai. At some point, if it's not selected or banned, going to feel very silly as the Lissandra ban. That's a crucial one because it's one of Ucal's main champions this season. One of his effective champion pool situations has been the fact that he's really needed Lissandra to get a lot going, and he will have to ban it on red side.
Yeah, their picks that he's played have been Galio and Zoe, but 0 and 3 on both of those, and they're not even available in this game. So could see him hop onto something he has had success. Syndra, Aurelion Sol, perhaps. We'll have to wait and see if they want to hold that counter pick for him on the last pick here. You're mentioning the Elise up against Rek'Sai if SANDBOX wants to play with fire.
All right.
Okay.
Where's this going, though? Because, of course, we have probably a support Galio, and Ucal is a Korea Talia 1 trick. That's how he came to prominence, how he ran up the solo queue ladder and got noticed by Katie Rolster at the time. So cool to see Talia back, especially if it is the Talia mid lane here. Those jungle nerfs were many patches ago now. SANDBOX Gaming, action on to them. Cassiopeia left open. No changes on this patch, but of course many nerfs over time. Finding out what the choice will be here. Lee Sin was the go-to for most junglers on patch 9.3. It wasn't just a Clid champion. It was opening up to being basically everyone in the league. And we have Punch in our second series if he's playing for Damwon Gaming, a noted connoisseur of the Lee Sin.
Yeah. You can see 50 games on it already, and 9 of those are on Fleek. So you're mentioning how he likes to play it. What's going to be the last pick here, though, for SANDBOX?
They need magic damage somewhere, and Syndra is the safest blind pick mid laner in many people's estimation at the moment. LS definitely bang on with that one in terms of enough nerfs, and her ability to stat check in the mid lane makes her strong. Afreeca hovering, something we've seen already. Does Dread take inspiration from Canyon? SANDBOX's read was that this was going to be a Jarvan top lane and a jungle last pick. Will their read be correct or incorrect? There's still so much flex going on here.
Okay.
And the final choice, the Kiin special, it's Malphite, baby.
There it is. I feel like this pick ban, there have been some expected things and very unexpected things. Talia alongside Malphite here for game 1 of Afreeca. They're changing up their roster. They're changing up some picks, bringing back some oldies and goodies, Papa.
And do you remember 1 year ago, Afreeca Freecs Kiin in the playoffs? It was the gauntlet of LCK when Kiin brought out the Triforce Malphite topside and slammed a Camille. It's not Camille, but it's Jace. How much damage will Kiin build on this Malphite? Because Afreeca Freecs, damn do they do one thing only. They have the most insane pylon comp, and then a Talia rock surfing around being like, wow, that's a lot of knockups.
Good thing about Talia is that if you have a lot of CC, it makes your seismic shove basically a targeted ability. So you get the wombo combo going, you get a lot of people into that Jarvan AoE ultimate, you're going to be having a lot of fun. So I definitely do like the amount of damage they have, the magic damage, just to boost everything up alongside that strong comp.
Cool to see. Whereas on the side of SANDBOX, very much more tier list drop. A lot of high tier picks that are strong in lane. But as the game goes on, starting to a poke comp versus an engage comp, it's so clear who's going to win. You look at the gold, you look at the scenario, you look at the wards, and you put it all together. The most CC ever wombo-wise on the side of Afreeca. It's definitely entertaining and easy to execute. Will they be able to stay competitive, though? I think Ucal and his potential to roam might be critical in getting them to their item breakpoints.
We'll have to see, guys. Game number 1 starts right now. Here we go, guys. You take a look at Afreeca's comp and you think, well, that's a scary one if you're playing in the solo queue games, but then imagine what they can do if they weave everything in together. But definitely some skill expression on the side of SANDBOX. We'll have to wait and see if they can push away all that engage and somehow survive in some of these team fights.
It's definitely a god tier silver ELO comp on the side
of
Afreeca Freecs. Malphite for sure, the best champion in low ELO. Reason for that, guys, if you're wondering, if you're just a challenger, by the way, that engage is one of those things that people are scared to do, especially at lower skill ratings. And a champion with the most straightforward target, almost engage, but so clear, right? You know when to go. When Malphite's in a fight, the go time is clear compared to if you're trying to play a poke comp with some Nidalee. Speaking of poke, Ucal taking a lot of damage at level 1, but Malphite, Jarvan, the Fate's Call into the knock-up from the Galio. They can go in so many times, and there's multiple rotations of going in with Galio ult and Fate's Call. This is very easy to engage. If you're at gold parity, if you're behind in gold, you go in and die, and that's what Afreeca can't afford to have.
I just can't wait to see if this lineup that, you know, brings in Jelly, as now seems to be the starting support here for Afreeca, brings in Sol into the lineup.
First time we're seeing that duo, though, remember? As it was Sol and Sanabi that played last time out, so we're still learning about where the actual starting roster is. Is Sun going to come in for Game 2? All these things are possible. Only thing consensus seems to be that Sad Spirit is watching on the sidelines and being a coach, I guess.
Yeah, you know, coach, by the way, for him, at least right now. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can pilot this kind of composition that does require you to be firing on all cylinders as a team.
And our biggest surprise, no Rek'Sai. We were wrecked. Time to side. There's nothing else to say.
Exactly. Are the casters now.
I feel pretty wrecked. I mean, it's very conspicuous, especially because they could have last picked Rek'Sai into Lee Sin, which is a huge winning matchup for Rek'Sai. But disagreement in game number 1 with our expectations. I think over time, we will prove to be correct on the Rek'Sai power level, but for at least game number 1 of SANDBOX vs. Afreeca, we're keeping it to the side.
Yeah. It's funny, too, because we had stats to talk about.
We're ready to
looking up ability
we got spiels, man. We're ready to go. It's Void Rush, by the way, not Void Assault. Don't get that one wrong, play-by-play casters.
Whole talking points to go in depth during the lull states and stuff like that.
Actually wrecked.
Yeah, we just don't even get her. I mean, doesn't happen. Ucal doesn't play Azir, he plays Thea. Like, it's all this fun, new, interesting stuff. At least it's not like Urgot was picked instead. So we're very thankful for that.
Definitely a matchup in mid lane that can be very tricky for Talia to navigate. She's all about the outplay, and Syndra not so much about that. So you need that early Banshee Veil, Merc Treads, Lost Chapter into Banshee Veil possibility. So it can be tricky to pull off. Bot lane, level advantage for SANDBOX. So it's going to fully disengage SSol and Jelly.
This gets the stun down, and it's always going to be interesting to see that top lane and see how Kiin is doing. Does have the second win, plus the Arcane Comet, so does have a bit of poke, but you could see that already you had to back and go for a TP. Here's Dread into the bottom lane, looking for a gank as Jelly looking for the flash, gets 2 of them, into the double knockup, but do they have the damage? Double flash comes through, and yes they do, as Joker is going to go down pretty easily there. First blood goes to Sol.
Hard engage, Dread in the right spot, no wards, means they actually find the benefit from all of that. They're going to push in the lane as well. So a nice moment here, and getting all the summoners out of Lucian Braum removes some of those all-in potentials that this duo is famous for pulling up.
Feels so good. Great gang timing there to come down to the bottom side for Dread. Always easy to pull that off if your enemies are going to group together and you're playing Galio for the double taunt.
Very interested to see if Kiin goes to that build. Again, we're talking about a match in spring season of last year. A lot of people would have missed that. But Kiin against the top lane Camille, when that was looking super powerful, went the build that Gimgoon popularized over in the LPL. Sunfire, Cape, and Trinity Force, when both those items were super out of meta, especially on someone like a Malphite. An old build that Wicked, of course, used many years ago. But still a goodie against some of these high harass champions. We're watching in the replay here, the spot top side.
Oh, he shows that he's going top, and he doesn't do Krug,
nope.
So they don't expect him to be down here in time.
And that's what happened. It's kind of similar to what Griffin were able to pull off at level 1 against KT Rolster. He was in vision, and this is what people like Dread do. Their pathing can be so insane. This is the guy in solo queue that gets a bot lane leash on red, then ganks topside, takes no other camps. With just 4 CS, goes for a top lane gank from behind. That creativity gets you kills, and it's really helpful for Soul and Jelly in the 2v2.
200 IQ from Dread, but 150 IQ from our observers. Thank you once again for spotting that out. It's not the first time they've done that.
But we can actually confirm that we actually know personally 2 of the observers. They're both Diamond players, so they definitely understand the game and can point out the nuance. So shout out to those 2 observers doing a great job.
Fantastic for sure, as definitely some good stuff happening so far for Afreeca, but you take a look at the top lane and it's always going to be a sight for sore eyes if you're a SANDBOX fan, because so far Summit up about 20 CS already onto Kiin on that Malphite.
Well, I mean, obviously the early game for Malphite's pretty sad. You'll notice he's gone Arcane Comet just to have some sort of lane presence and some mana regen to get through the early levels. The Sunfire, Cape, and Trinity Force, if that's the build, will come in later. Armor certainly will be there in one way or the other. They needed to find winning lanes, because otherwise Jace beats up Malphite early, Syndra beats up Talia, and bot lane Lucian Braum, you kind of take blind in every matchup. So Dread is the one who's getting them through this awkward early game phase. Continuing now.
Dread not even gonna attempt to get in there after the flash is blown. Just a pretty obvious thing for Summit to do once he sees the Jarvan, and Kiin running straight at him all of a sudden.
So whatever Afreeca can do to get this to a mid... Oh, it's Kiin already fallen super low. Yeah. He's out of spells, I believe, here, Summit. Yeah. But again, big thing to take away. Afreeca pile on. Teamfight comp needs to get some items to be able to teamfight, needs to get through the laning phase, which is heavily SANDBOX favored. So if Afreeca stays competitive in gold, especially if they go ahead, that's actually bigger than any simple gold numbers can truly illustrate.
Always good to keep in mind who's going to scale better as this game does go along. You can see that Kiin, he didn't have his TP after taking that huge chunk. He's going to miss a whole cannon wave, or the majority of it, up on the top side to add to the woes. Does get his Ninja Tabby though, and that's going to be the beginning of him, you know, just starting to survive in this lane.
Exactly. It's all about just getting through, gritting your teeth, and then saying, guys, my TP is up, I've got Malphite out, let's make plays around the map. Now, if you can do that post 14 minutes and not lose 4 turret checkpoints to make it happen, that would be ideal. But Afreeca have been very greedy. They've gone for AoE wombo ultimates that really help them in the 5v5, but hurt them in all 3 losing lanes. So you're going to have acceptable losses somewhere. You can't just draft like Afreeca does and win every lane unless you're playing against a much inferior team.
Yeah. Also, I mean, if you're a solo queue player, you would know that, you know, maybe the Malphite would be able to try to keep up, but in solo queue, he probably would have died once or maybe even twice already. So Kiin taking the safe approach, which is actually smart, to saying, I don't need to win my lane. I know that I lose. So definitely a tip for some of you guys out there. You don't always have to, you know, lose your life just to try to get some CS and try to win the lane when you're not supposed to.
And for Dread, honestly, it's that awkward spot where he got the gank off bot lane, got the kills, right? That was obviously better than expected, but his job this game is to blow enemy summoners. He wants to come in, blow a flash, and relieve some pressure from the laners who need some time. Ucal's been pretty bold. Notice this. He hasn't gone Merc Tread's first item against Syndra. That's ultra standard for basically every mid laner. Top side.
Okay, Dove. Well, you were greeting for that one as he's going to have the huge wombo coming on in as even Jelly's up here to get a piece. And even Ucal coming over with his own wall saying, this is my blue buff now, as unfortunately Dove a little bit too far in a position.
Well, there's a lot of people getting knocked up this game. I'm trying to work out which jokes are broadcast acceptable and which jokes are not. But, yeah, the doctor there doesn't need to pronounce that one. Definitely, he is going to be super dead. No paramedics required. If you're one person, you get hit by 3 of these wombo combo knockups, you die.
He's like sticking around even though he sees Kiin leave the lane. It's like, you just have to respect that. It's just a mistake, and so unfortunately, he pays the iron price big time.
And it's just exactly like you're saying, wandering around a scuttle. Why are you there? You dunk lane and you're in the river where you can get ganked. And that's the issue there, is that spreading your lead is so important, but that's not the way you do it. I think that's just thinking with Flash you'd be fine, where, again, Flash means nothing to Malphite with ultimate available. So a bit of a head-scratching moment, and we're just not seeing SANDBOX find a way to recreate that. Just amazing performance on 9.1 and 9.2. The term I have used to describe them is patch surg, which I think some of our StarCraft fans will know. It's a kind of outdated esports term, not used in League of Legends a lot, but basically the big point is they abused 9.1, 9.2 Flex Assassins Worlds meta that was very much overlapping, better than almost any other team. They took the early game leads and then from there made mistakes, but had such a big lead and strong, flexible lane assignments that they could close games, you know. But we still saw pretty honest problems and teething issues with this rookie squad. Now they've lost really the identity that made them strong, and they're trying to pick up the pieces, and you can see the pieces are much less clean than they were on previous patches with other champions available.
Yeah, definitely it's true. We'll have to wait and see if they can adapt here, because we said it before, just 3 wins and they make it into playoffs essentially. But up against Afreeca so far, Afreeca doing well here in the early game. And now moving up to try to secure this Rift Herald. No Drakes have been taken, by the way. We saw that SANDBOX started the Cloud Drake earlier on in this game, but then backed off of that one. So is another objective available, but Dread alongside Ucal with that insane single target damage that Talia used to abuse in the jungle, but has always been known for, helps out. Takes out that Rift Herald in due time here.
And it's another objective for the team with the losing lanes, Valdez. What does that mean for fans at home? Does that mean the game is over? Let's watch this trade first.
Yeah, Jelly just pushing him away, but it's going to get knocked up and stunned here. Tons of damage coming out now from Ghost as the flash on forward with the Ignite. Is it going to tick down? One more will do it. There it is. And OnFleek looking for the follow-up now. Super clean. Made it look easy, flashing in for the kick. And down will go Sol in the entire bot lane of Afreeca.
I think Afreeca actually misplayed the 2v2 really, really hard. That'll be easier to explain on a replay, but we'll focus on Dread roaming to top side, zoning away Summit, trying to find goal where they can. All right, time to cash in turret checkpoints on both sides. I think just to answer the original question of what's going on in terms of scaling here, yes, we love the scaling on Afreeca for team fights, and it does feel like they're going to hit that with gold parity or maybe a gold lead, which we already mentioned should heavily favor Afreeca, but it doesn't lock out SANDBOX. To me, the lockout moment is if Afreeca get the first Baron, then you're a siege comp against Baron with no wave clear lead, and the enemy can engage whenever they want. That's where it's lights out. So right now, it's heavy advantage to Afreeca Freecs, but definitely not game ender yet.
Certainly is. We saw a bit of a race going on as Joker and Ghost were trying to take out that bottom turret, but actually with the Rift Herald, Dread and Kiin able to get first blood turret up in the top side of the map here for Afreeca. So nice little boost for them in terms of gold.
Afreeca Freecs, 900 gold ahead. We're going to watch the replay here. Here's my issue with this string. It starts off fine. Summoners, I believe, up on both sides. But the problem is they have to fully disengage when Sol takes 3 stacks of passive, because Braum passive applies on the ultimate, which means Sol can do no damage on the back end at all. They also know their jungler is top side, so they're not actually in coordination with where the backup is. No backup, no chance. 2 kills, well executed. I'm
not
going to translate that one for
What
you
did they
guys.
say? What did he say there?
Nice.
Could you translate that
that's
for
how
me?
he did it, yeah. It means nice. Yeah. That's what they say.
That's why we bring you on the cast, Val. That's needed for moments just like that.
The Korean expert you guys got in me. I'll help you out anytime you want. They're probably going to say nice or go, 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 or, you know, we got him.
I like how G-Sun is translating for us. We know those ones, G-Sun. It's everything else we fail at.
Yeah. Well.
Now, turret plates are gone. Now, as you can see, SANDBOX got quite a few on the bot side. That's very helpful for a comp that wanted to get a gold lead. Again, we got the spoilers top side. We know that right now, Afreeca Freecs are, I would say if you kind of pushed me for how far ahead they are in gold, I would say about 4,000 gold lead, but it goes bigger and bigger as the gold numbers get bigger. Kiin, speaking of big, is ready for an engaged mid lane.
Now, Dove does have his flash back, so this makes it a lot more unreliable. I wanted to mention before, even if Dove was going to make the trade for the Scuttle for his flash, that's so dangerous. Up against this comp, when you're a Syndra, you have no escape other than your flash, so it's even more valuable than you would have even expected up against Afreeca's comp.
Really interesting first item pickup here from Ucal. I feel like the only person I remember going GLP was Crown many years ago on Taliyah right after she was changed post-2016 Worlds. A catch build. It's an item that you see on no champions now that Aurelion Sol can't build it out of Catalyst anymore. It's also very bold against Dove as bot lane.
Okay, we're going in here. We got a TP and Dread, and it's 4-on-2 right now. They get the knock up here on a Joker, but they want the 2-4. And they get onto Ghost here. They do get the knock up. No flash out of Ghost, as you can see that Kiin was playing the game of chicken, waiting for him to flash, but Ghost knew he was dead anyway. Is going to go down to the two of them. Summit and Dove trying to make a play in the mid lane to trade. But in the end, it's just a bit of damage on that mid lane first turn.
So easy to pick up these kills. You feel for Ghost because it's always a rock, paper, scissors of when do I predict flash. Unfortunately, when you got Malphite Jarvan, you get 3 goes, so there's actually no 1 in 3 chance here. It's a 0 out of 3 of living. So there's no chicken to be played. The deck stacked against him. He goes down. He gets to keep his summoner. That's the only silver lining. They lose the bot lane turret, and now Afreeca, with that engage comp, are going to hit their 1-item spikes at around the same time. And then the go buttons. There's just so many of them.
Just never ends. I mean, the Galio goes in first.
When do you flash? Is it now? Is it now? Is it now?
It's never. It's just never. You can never do it because even if you do flash, you're still going to get ulted, especially because Kiin plays it right and just runs at him. It's like the old Blitzcrank thing, right? You don't want to hook right away, you just run at them.
But there is a learning on this, Valdez, because I feel like a lot of junglers use their line skill shots, say Lee Sin Q, an Italy Spear, too willy-nilly in a gank when walking up with red buff and auto-attacking and waiting for a flash or an escape tool is usually the right way to go. That's the same principle Kiin took of. I'm going to use my ultimate when I'm ready. I will not have it flashed, and he didn't even have to use it, really, until right at the end.
Yeah. All it came down to that ward that was behind the duo in the bottom lane that just allowed him to get on top of them, basically, and offered them no escape. So, Mountain here in a minute and a half certainly would be nice here for Afreeca alongside their Kalista to get that one down even faster.
SANDBOX need to find their advantages now because the mid-game comes in with a goal disadvantage in the side lane, in the 1-3-1. But you notice Summit's built for lane in terms of opponent here, shredding armor, not actually doing max damage with this build. So because of that, not going to be the fastest. Shredding down turrets means that Kiin can amble his way between top and mid lane and be there for a flash ult engage. It slows down the advance. Notice the Kiin, a bit more respectful, so not going the Gimgoon Trinity Force build. It's the Icemon Gauntlet, a lot more standard here, more armor in the build, so people understand it. Just about wave clearing and delaying the inevitable. He knows that the top turret will go down sometime in the next 7 minutes. He just also knows that he's very likely to be out trading one turret with 3 or 4 kills in the grouped 5v4.
That he will be, as it'll be interesting to see the next item here for the Taliyah. Looks like a Banshee's Veil, as speaking of which, they're trying to get on top of her. The stun, very, very close. One more tip would have done it, but he's not going to go down. There's the wombo combo. See you later, Lucian. You went a little bit too far, my friend. As Zelly gonna go for the follow-up here. Ignite trying to take down. Doesn't look like it's enough. Here comes OnFleek trying to turn it around, but will not follow up as Joker also nearly goes down on the backside of that fight.
But you get the defensive wombo combo use, which means that now you can walk up in spots you couldn't because a lot of important ultimates are on cooldown for the next minute and a half.
And they are, but still, Ucal does survive, and he is going to be here on time to help out with that one with his wall. If any fight was happening, as OnFleek takes a bunch of damage here from Kiin, and the Mountain Drake will essentially go for free to the side of Afreeca.
And in a different game where they could have played their winning lanes the standard fashion, got say 2,500 gold lead from turret plates, blowing all these ultimates defensively would have gotten the Drake for free. Because how can you fight from behind when you don't have your wombo ult? Ucal lives on a sliver. Jelly can body block the end. But all this wombo usage and flash at the end doesn't get them a lot. That's the big thing here. They get one kill from it. But SANDBOX don't feel strong enough to walk up to contest the Drake. That's the big downfall for SANDBOX here.
And so it does go the way of Afreeca. They have 2 Drakes, and thankfully for SANDBOX, it's not going to be another big one here. It is a second Cloud, which, again, most of the time you'd be unhappy about that, but you consider all that wombo combo makes it even more threatening, as they're going to be sprinting at you at high speeds if Afreeca could pick it up a second Cloud Drake.
SANDBOX just need to find a way, now there's 20 minutes, to run at this Baron and kill it. I think they just straight up lose this game when Banshee Veil is done, when second, third items are done on some of this wombo. Without a Baron, you need the Baron here because it closes out against a poke comp basically every time. If you got Jason Italy, enemy gets Baron, what Jason Italy going to do? Same property here for SANDBOX, and because they lost the early game, finding a way to get this Baron is, well, good to know that bug is still there on patch 9.4.
Yeah, good to know, I guess. As the knockup comes in, a wall just for defense as Jelly is in so much trouble. Speaking of wombo combo, they threw him around like a ragdoll.
They just threw him under the bus. They were like, sorry, Jelly, we don't like you that much. You can see who is the most unpopular member of this 5-man team on Afreeca.
Poor Jelly. Had such a good game. But, yeah, Lee Sin really strong, able to just kick the giant gargoyle to the side. And does end up with that kill, but honestly, Afreeca not going to be too sad about that one, as it is just your Galio support. Not too big of a deal.
Kiin looking solid. He's got the Sunfire and Iceborne Gauntlet with Ninja Tabi, so now Jace takes hilariously a long time to kill him. Very hard to find itemization because you want to go play the Ruin King and Black Cleaver against the tanks, but it's not going to work in this case. You're going to watch the replay. A lot invested just to get a kill. It's on to Jelly. So many ultimates needed. Desperation on the side of SANDBOX to find a good moment, and all it really does is raise the sails. Of course, your shot calling is going to be more positive when you went 1 for 0. So, yeah, we got the kill. That'll help us next time, but we know it's the smallest advantage that anyway Afreeca can pick up. Afreeca could lose or SANDBOX could pick up.
It's just the 1 kill. Doesn't really amount to anything else, as that bottom turret was going to go down either way, and I suppose they get a Weaver's Wall out of Ucal, but that doesn't actually matter as he's about to get it back. So the game continues along here. Afreeca happy to let it do so. They're just containing around the Baron and saying, we're not going to let you have any vision here. We will control it. And as you mentioned before, SANDBOX do not want to let that go, and they would love to pick it up themselves, but cannot do that currently.
It's so hard because usually that requires, given the champs, Jace hitting it in a turret and Malphite kind of sadly trying to wave clear with a bit of magic resist in the build. Instead, Malphite has a teleport advantage and could build only armor because the health is enough and he's not going to be in range of Syndra unless he's knocking her up. So because of that, side lane doesn't work, groups doesn't work. They're just trying to get any sort of poke they can, even 300 HP, to just get a control world down near the Baron. Afreeca on red sides, they can sneak in vision super easily, and then if you're actually trying to sit in the pit against this much wombo, that debuff from the Baron plus all the guaranteed basically engage makes your life basically vacant. So SANDBOX Gaming have so few ways to actually make something happen, and Afreeca Freecs kind of on them to roll the dice, and they get to roll it a couple of times, and SANDBOX just waiting for Afreeca to make a decision.
Yeah, when you consider Afreeca's composition as well, we talked about ease of play before, I think, in this cast. But
we're close to Bronzodia. It just needs a movement.
It's just, you know, you just click your buttons on one guy. To quote my good friend Atlas, you know, use your buttons and get the kill. But you have a couple of targets that are very obvious, Syndra and Lucian for sure, but even Lee Sin and Jace aren't so bad. I mean, you take any of them out, essentially, and you're going to win the team fight. And Lucian, we've said this before in some of his compositions, doesn't have the highest range, can struggle up against a lot of just in-your-face engage, so a lot of weight going to be on Ghost's shoulders to try to carry through all of that engage.
And Dove can just do nothing because the moment people are in range for her to ult, you know they're coming with knock-up CC, and Cassiopeia, Syndra, all these mid-range mages just shudder at the thought of
Can
wombo
she press
comps.
her R? That's really
probably.
the question.
I don't know if it'll do more than 300 damage, but she can press the button.
Yeah.
It's just so tricky to execute. Reason why we don't see these comps is if you're behind in gold, like they should be given the weak laning matchups, then if you don't perfectly wombo, you lose because you don't have enough damage. When you're ahead in gold, you can actually afford to miss one of them, maybe even two, and still win a team fight. And speaking of team fights, this ward getting a lot of value.
Yep, this is on Vision, and SANDBOX will
Jelly
know.
has not swept it. They do not know about the first ward.
Okay, ward's coming in, and now they know that SANDBOX know. Look at Ucal, though. Trying to get that Weaver's Wall into position. Just going to get behind them. The ultimate is going to be missed there. As where's the engage? Big Jarvan ultimate. But a lot of damage going back the way from the blue team. They get 2 kills already as SANDBOX trying to win this fight after the engage goes wrong.
They've done it.
3 members of Afreeca go down and make that a 4th as SANDBOX somehow, some way, are going to stop the Baron and win the fight.
They just straight up outplay Afreeca Freecs. We see this lineup come in with a reliable comp when it's the first time they played as a 5. And they botched it, Val. There's no other way to put it. That was heavily stacked in the advantage of Afreeca, and they will lose Baron. A very heavy price, given that we know this would have closed out the game for Afreeca Freecs.
I know, we're going to have to take a look at a slow motion replay, but everything seems to go wrong. The Malphite ultimate goes wide. Jarvan ults by himself on a 4 and has no follow-up. It's just all over the place from Afreeca, and SANDBOX just take huge advantage.
So it starts with the ward. Remember, yes, they know it's there, but they don't know that all positioning is available. And then we watch the replay. Kiin has to use his stasis early. Dread goes in, but with no backup. They don't have a Malphite ult. They don't have Galio ult until right at the end. So Ucal's kind of ambling on work ground, doing no damage. And importantly, the AD carry already is dead. How can you not get a rank set in these team fights with this big a frontline, with this much reliable CC? The answer is this team fight where everything goes wrong at the same time. And SANDBOX, you see how slumped the coach is. The coach is waiting for this to be game number 2, need new picks and bans to fight back. He's going to be amazed that he came out with a Baron buff and a team fight victory.
Definitely tells the whole story of the game that was happening now. And the question is, now with Baron on the side of SANDBOX and a huge gold swing going their way, about 4,000 or 5,000, plus a Cloud Drake. They're certainly in a fantastic spot now as all of their poke champions going to be doing tons of damage. If they can just dodge that engage from ahead, they're going to be having more fun here in these later game fights.
Gotta say, the SANDBOX coach has been by far the most emotive of any head coach. He is getting in there every game they play. SANDBOX have the Baron. We said it, shut them out if they lost it. Now they're a siege comp with Baron, and Afreeca say, we get those ults wrong a second time in a row, we lose the game.
Has to be on point, and we were joking around how it's easy to land, but if you actually dodge the first couple of knockups, you can kind of spread out in one of those wonky Baron fights and win. If it's 5v5 ARAM in the mid lane, maybe it's a lot harder, but not the way that last fight went.
Do you know how bad the last fight went? You might say, yes, I saw people die in a Baron. You know how I know it's even worse than that? Jace and Lucian still have their flashes, Valdez. How did that ever happen?
They never needed to use them as well. Poor Dove. He's been the scapegoat so far from this game as Kiin has to ult away just to survive on the backside. So it's weird, but you know, they get the kill on a Dove, they get that Baron away, but Afreeca not going to want to engage without that Malphite ult.
Watching here, though, they can play those 3 lanes. Again, this was impossible just a moment ago with Malphite wave throwing and even threatening Summit in the sideline. He's got a Guardian Angel now. Banned up minion wave. This Baron buff is going to be huge value. We're looking at 2,500 or so gold power play. 2,800, there's the update. Still with a minute left, and Afreeca are licking their wounds, and now we come back to some of our original analysis with Spirit on the lineup. We've been asking who the shot caller is. Kiin will have a voice, but he's not really the kind of alpha personality that someone like Marin, who he replaced on Afreeca, was. Previously, Spirit is not there with his experience. SSol has been a shot caller, but on Kongdon Monster, a team that, of course, won precious few series, some games in 2016, 17, and 18. But the end result is now, even with drafting over some of those issues, how about a really easy to execute comp with your kind of young squad that's really coming together? They've messed up in a big way, and you don't get 2 do-overs in a comp like this.
Really only going to get one, as you're mentioning. You know, the Baron does go the way of the SANDBOX, and they do get a pretty sizable lead in this game, but no inhibitors have been broken. The Baron is about to go down. We can try to reset here until the next Baron fight, maybe just fight more front to back, you know, one knock-up into the other knock-up from the side of Afreeca, and see if they can press those buttons a little bit better this time around.
And can we be convinced by the Taliyah and Kalista 2 threats? Because they were not doing damage last fight. Walking up here, Afreeca, is this the time? My thought is no. Dove still doesn't have flash. That's why they were thinking about it. But I don't think you were going to get away unscathed there. SANDBOX, Baron is over, but they want to get this last turret before the objective game begins again.
Really nice stun there from Dove just to push back the Jarvan, make sure that does not go in. Probably would have been not the best engaged from Afreeca, so maybe just a bit of a thank you from the side of Dread and Afreeca for that one. But either way the Baron ends, the turret does go down. We're sitting now with Baron, or rather SANDBOX, about 5,000 gold ahead in this game, and minute 30 until Baron spawns again. So that should be the fun points when both these teams are going to be fighting over that objective.
And let's give the viewers some more words about what they should be looking for from Afreeca, because we've talked about Bronzodia and wow, Wombo engage, how can it go wrong? Here's how a fight should play out that did not happen last time. These 3 beefy men, look at the items, it's double stone plate. You know what Jarvan, Malphite, and Galio are up to. They're all diving in. We need to, behind that, see Kalista free autoing. She has double lifesteal. You can be so aggressive in your positioning here, but you can't die first. That's the duality. This front line should mean that is pretty trivial, and Taliyah actually doing damage, because sitting on work ground, poking one rock isn't going to do anything. That was what was missing with the setup in the previous fight. So synergy on the engage and free hitting from SSol and Ucal. Otherwise, if Dove just randomly kills SSol or Ucal before a fight, it doesn't matter how big your front line is when you have no damage.
Yeah, it does come down to SSol's positioning and the way that he uses his Kalista mechanics, but it also does come down to the cleanness of the engage from the side of Afreeca. If they can start the fight off on their side and in their benefit, then SSol will have a much better time autoing from behind.
And who has agency to stop that plan, to me, is OnFleek. You've got your flash, you are a man with great mechanics. You kick SSol in or out of a fight, that could actually be a match.
Afreeca making a big play here towards that mid tier 1. Doesn't look like SANDBOX is ready to get in there yet, as Afreeca, all 5 of them together in a circle, not pushing away, just looking for that 5v5 fight. Here's the Fate's call, does get the one knockup, in goes Galio. Another follow-up from the Jarvan and the Malphite, but do they have the damage is the question. Ucal is going to be dunked in the backside as Ghost and OnFleek are full health here. They're going to tunk down SSol as Kiin has to flash away once again. Looks like the damage not there for Afreeca for the 2nd time in a row as wow. What a cue from OnFleek. You mentioned mechanics. He's here to play tonight on his Lee Sin, looking for the 7th win, as Dread is going to go down in the clean ace to the side of SANDBOX.
They never got the do-over, Valdez. The 2nd time in a row they go down. They just can't get damage out of Ucal and SSol at the same time. Front lines don't explode, and SANDBOX Gaming, whatever we outlined for this game, have really fought back in inspired fashion. Their shot calling certainly looks a lot more even. Afreeca tried to make an said, let's just ARAM in the mid lane. We're not going to worry about vision. We're not going to have a vision juke, but they're going to lose a 2nd Baron from it, and probably the game.
I mean, we'll have to take, there's so much stuff that happens in this fight, so you really have to break it down piece by piece.
Sure, it starts with strong engage, and SSol is skipping, but Ucal's doing no follow-up damage, so actually, watch Ucal. He's the one here, because Kalista does what we outlined, but Ucal actually does 0 damage in this fight. He's completely zoned by the Lee Sin. We thought Lee Sin onto Kalista. It's actually Lee Sin onto Ucal, and yes, the rest of the front line were in an emergency spot, but this is what happens when you don't dot your I's and cross your T's, and after you lose an earlier fight, you can't force it to be on your terms. This game was played around. We've got a control ward lead and strong wombo engage. You can't fight us. In this fight, they're just begging the enemy team to fight them in the open with no lead. And after losing that previous fight, it seems like the throw time is pretty clear.
The throws were certainly there. It was not clean from the side of Afreeca, but really got to give OnFleek the big thumbs up in that one. He found the squishy underside of this composition, found the Taliyah. And for many games of playing Taliyah, I would know as well, you find a good Lee Sin on the opposite side, you are going to have a bad game, as gets kicked into her own wall, does 0 damage the entire time. And it does raise another question, you know, was Taliyah the right pick alongside all this other stuff? Well, not when you're up against this good of a Lee Sin.
It was a self-counter pick for lane, so why not an Azir, right? I think that would have fit this comp really well, but we'll zoom in on what there is. It's SANDBOX with a second Baron on this siege comp. Freeca still have engaged, but now I think they've got the confirmation. They just don't have enough damage behind it for it to stick.
Does feel that way as SANDBOX with their second Baron looking to take this one out relatively soon. They just got that cannon pushing away that damage into that mid lane as Afreeca desperately trying to do whatever they can to get this one down and OnFleek, always threatening the Taliyah. Very scary stuff.
They already popped the Banshee Veil. That means that Ucal is just going to do a little bit of wavering as they lose their mid lane inhibitor. This game has gone to hell in a handbag for sure for Afreeca. Might even need a Last Whisper on SSol to do damage. They walk up for a second time.
Trying to zone out Joker and Summit. In they go as Dread just disappears on the backside. There's just no follow-up here on OnFleek. The only one that takes any damage on the side of SANDBOX, as Soul finally did do a bit of damage on the backside, but it doesn't seem like enough, as it's a lackluster fight, and SANDBOX continue to push.
SANDBOX Gaming push up. They know they can maybe even just end on this push. Pieces on the chessboard look so clear from Afreeca Freecs, but when wielded, we definitely see some user error on the side of Afreeca. SANDBOX being respectful for alive on the side of Afreeca. They'll need a do-over. This one might push past 40 minutes, but right now it's seeming like there can only be one winner between Afreeca Freecs and SANDBOX Game.
Does feel that way. SANDBOX, they outplayed the one Baron fight into a second one. They were ahead. We'll get another replay of this one as Dread just says, take me with you.
I think this was
trying to do with the wall.
It's definitely the LCS I'm helping moment. He goes in as Jarvan. It may not be the original meme of trapping his teammates, but unfortunately, the first part of the engage, he dies instantly. You need a Malphite to be the opener here if it was all about the Galio ult. They get nothing from it. Yeah. And from here, unfortunately, it's Jarvan sacrificed the SANDBOX gods. And now SANDBOX Gaming have a 10,000 gold lead, which we already mentioned. The Freaks were more ahead than they seem. That may look at the counter of that and say, okay, does that mean SANDBOX are actually competitive here against Afreeca? I think with these item breakpoints, the answer is clearly no. And fourth item from Soul here is a Guardian Angel. Living is not the problem, doing damage is the problem, and unfortunately, it seems almost impossible short of catching someone like Dove instantly.
And so far, SANDBOX have been playing that well. They've been very spread out. Nobody's getting caught. They don't give an option for Afreeca to just blow up one person. We're going to see it once again. The Braum just perfect up against Taliyah. Never allows them to find any advantageous, you know, engages for the side of Afreeca.
right? Those are the two champions that Braum had so much agency over.
And now it's, you know, it's a 10,000 gold lead. What are you going to do when you don't really have the damage to back it up? As well, we're going to find him again, says OnFleek, as well. Ucal is going to flash away from that one. GLT comes in. Has OnFleek gone too far? He's looking for the kill. He's going to have to stopwatch on the backside. He's just going to be the martyr, the sacrifice here in this game, as down will go the third inhibitor.
Definitely too aggressive, but luckily enough, you got 3 inhibitors down as that 1 kill comes down, so it's still a trade up from the side of SANDBOX. Afreeca will still say we have a chance. And because of their engage, they will be able to force something unless Dread just dies instantly.
Well, first time is not the charm. Can the second time be, as in goes Jelly. Nice scout of the week there, gonna push him back, and finally Dread says, can we do it again? But he's gonna go down. They finally find Dove, as Joker also gonna get caught here. That's actually really big The Elder Dragon is alive right now, guys.
Do they know where Ghost is? Trying to backdoor at this point. I don't think he was spotted. He might be spotted by this control ward around here. He's trying to backdoor and a TP the base. Afreeca need to respond to this.
They do, and here comes Ghost. He's trying to go 1v4 to stop the backs, but he's not going to be able to, as he's going to be going down here most likely. There it is, 1,000 gold. Goes the way of Sol, and they do stop the back door.
And Ucal will be able to actually stop the minions here. Look how important that wall is. That's the wall you wanted. That should keep the last Nexus turret up in this Fiesta at the end. OnFleek is around, 50-50 potential.
OnFleek, can he get it? No, he misses his Q. Will he flash for it? No, he doesn't have his flash. And is going to miss that one. Goes the way of Afreeca. So now you have to wonder, with 3 inhibitors down, can they possibly come back?
It's amazing, Valdez, but this Taliyah pick has basically solo lost them the game and may actually be the reason they get one more chance at life. First, let's focus on this play. You notice how much is needed to actually get this engaged. Flash ult there from the Malphite just to get in range, not even to cancel the animation. They force down a couple. They get the Elder Dragon from all of this. And the wall usage is actually the replay we wanted, because he stops an entire double cannon minion wave from coming in on the top side and keeps the last Nexus turret up. If the Nexus turret goes down, you can probably Zerg it down and win the game with all the damage on the side of SANDBOX. It's not there now, although SANDBOX should pick up a free back.
SANDBOX going to scoop this one up. You can see that Afreeca not even going to look at it, as there's really no chance you're going to leave your base with all 3 inhibitors down. They do get the mid one back, and we do have inhibitor timers for you guys above that mini-map just to know when they're coming up. We have the mid one and the bottom one coming up here in 30 seconds.
And those bounties mean that full build is now there for Sol. Notice did not go for a last whisper, went for double zeal, so he actually has 50% crit in this item build. No Infinity Edge on either side. Armor totals on the side of SANDBOX, pretty much Guardian Angels though, so it's not like it's going to be a huge amount of armor, so you can definitely understand it. But just while we have one final quiet moment, this Taliyah pick into Braum, so there's an answer for the ultimate, into Syndra, a losing matchup where she has to go for a Banshee Veil, bought the Banshee Veil late, and then in teamfights did no damage. That was a self-counter pick that also was comp counter picked. It was like a double self-counter pick from Ucal Dade style, and yet it stops those minions from ending the game, and it might actually be the reason they pick up a win at 40 minutes.
Nothing's decided yet, though, as the Elder Drake here only on for 30 seconds, whereas Baron remains for 220 for the side of SANDBOX. They're just going to wait out the Elder. They're not going to take any fights here. No chances while that buff is still active.
Yeah, it's 1 minute 50, like you're saying, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a minute or 40 seconds of advantage. It's actually quite a lot of time.
It is.
Where
they could get inhibitors back here once again. So
and Afreeca don't have flashes, so they're going to be short range on this engage for about the same time as Baron last. So while Baron is up, given where the flash timers are, there's actually no reason SANDBOX shouldn't get 3 inhibitors again.
We'll see how the engage goes here, as Sol definitely pretty strong, but eats a bunch of poke. But you can see, as Papa mentioned before, double life seal, pretty good on Kalista, at least
Sol's life super sucks because he needs to frontline to look juicy to allow his team to engage, but his team doesn't have flashes to surprise the enemy. So he's actually just going to get poked out for free, and they can't punish. Speaking of poked out, inhibitors falling low on every side.
Mid's going to go down, and, well, Jace always super good at taking that out. You get the 80 carry on the bottom side. They're looking for 2 inhibitors at least, as the top one not yet respawning. Very calm, collected. Sol going in there. They want to get in the back line. They get dumb again. And that is a huge pick. Take a look at the top side of Summit. Trying to go for the split push. That's not going to work, as he's all alone.
How many kills can they get?
Here. Down goes the TA.
They need all the kills they can get so they can try to force mid. They will lose all their inhibitors again.
They do. And, well, this game is still going on, though. The gold lead, it looks like the Baron power play is going to be more like a penalty kill to the side here of Afreeca. They're going to win in the gold, but the inhibitors are down, at least the mid and bottom ones.
They are able, because of the late respawn, to keep up top inhibitor. That's actually pretty pivotal, because so far away from where they want to play this game. It also means that Baron is potentially going to be able to be defended on the red side jungle for them to sneak in vision. As always, we're talking red side works on. watching the replay, SSol has to do this, and there's no other flashes on his team, so he has to frontline. This is actually really impressive. It's so hard to play Kalista when you have a wombo frontline that can't wombo because their flashes are down. So credit to him there. And then Malphite as a champion can be a tank that actually interrupts this Nexus tart from going down. So really fringe things like the Talia ultimate in the defense, and then the AoE attack speed slow on the Malphite compared to other tanks are uniquely keeping Afreeca alive. Is it going to be in service of a victory? You would still say 70-30 advantage to SANDBOX at minimum, and yet Afreeca lives to tell the tale again.
They do. I mean, they're holding on here by, a rope. It's not a string. They have, more than that 5% chance you were talking about. They have an inhibitor and a dream, essentially. One inhibitor, one Nexus turret, and one Nexus to wait this one out. If they could somehow take another advantageous fight and get Elder, I mean, that's the dream for them. But the question is, how can you do it? As SANDBOX now pushing for that last inhibitor.
And what they've done is they've pushed out Afreeca Freecs 2 lanes and actually get to defend this inhibitor as if they have inhibitors up. So they actually have some time on the top side. Very important to get your side waves in order, but we can see some double cannon minion waves pushing up in the bot side. Elder spawns in 30 seconds. Afreeca, to their credit, have pushed out the 2 lanes that let them put down Elder Dragon Vision. They are not able to put down Baron Vision at present, so because of that, SANDBOX Gaming, they want to wait. There should be 2 free objectives here for SANDBOX with the inhibitors down for the 2 minutes 40, and with both buffs going to be on the Rift in about a minute. And yet, SANDBOX haven't been the best at side wave control, so can they find a way to bloodlessly take down Elder into Baron? That should be the objective for SANDBOX, and it should be something pretty reliable, given the lanes pushing into Afreeca.
Lots of vision on the top side for SANDBOX if Jace Summit here wanted to go for some kind of crazy backdoor. So always keep that in mind as OnFleek. Gonna just take out that Banshee Veil once again, and Afreeca, they're just looking for Dove. They're looking for one guy. Can they find him this time? They want to get out to Ghost here, but Zola's gonna have his CA immediately pop. Look at Ucal in the back line. Immediately dies down there to Summit as 2 members of Afreeca go down, and the dream is dead. SANDBOX gonna take the big fight here as it's only Dread left available. The TPs come in and they're gonna win this game.
Yeah, definitely a well-deserved win for SANDBOX. That last team fight was sick. They flanked the Jace onto Ucal as Sol kicked into the team. Dread might live, but Ghost is just on gatekeeping duty. Summit win this game and a well-deserved victory. A comeback win for SANDBOX Gaming.
Big game. Was a fun one too, actually. Afreeca gave us a hope here for them to maybe come back and make this a really interesting 50-minute game. They did hold on for quite a while, but SANDBOX in the end, with the big outplays, do win against that heavy engaged composition.
Both teams definitely made some pretty big mistakes that in other series could have been game enders, but all our hard points about where this game should go were actually belied by the fact that SANDBOX is in transition as a team from the patches that suited them, and Afreeca is a new team with mired shot calling, and I feel like that's what dragged down this game and extended it for an extra 30 minutes. I would agree with you. I thought it was really exciting, but there were definitely very clear flaws in game plans that largely hit Afreeca with the more easy to execute comp. They weren't able to execute when they needed to, and SANDBOX were clutch. I loved the plays by OnFleek, and then finally by Summit to find their man, because Ucal, to me, was the really big problem here for Afreeca. Greedy in his choice of his trademark Talia in a spot that didn't seem to suit it, and then the Syndra Lee Sin comes in and really makes it hard. It was already with the Braum as a compositional answer, so loving the Syndra into the Talia. It wasn't a blind pick in the end. There was no Talia jungle shenanigans.
Yeah.
If the Talia goes elsewhere and you get a better matchup, things work out. But it was such a topsy-turvy game because the team with the losing lanes won the early to mid game, and then the easy to execute comp didn't come together when it should have. So really a lot of negatives to talk about, but for the viewers, a fiesta to enjoy.
Was a fun one to watch and a fun one to cast, and I'm sure in game number 2 at least, I would like to see Kiin back onto a carry. Get rid of these weird, bronze Zodia or whatever you called it, compositions. Balls to the wall, only engage. Show some skill with some of your very skilled players is what I would like to see.
Had the Syndra. They had the balls.
Yeah, okay.
Just getting your language correct.
That's true. They did have the one champion there with the balls in this game. Only one of them in this game. But
where's Orianna at?
Yeah, maybe next game. It might have been better, actually. You think about that compared to the Talia. It's very good with Wombo combo. get more balls in there as well. But Lucian, in the end, most damage in the game. But mostly it was just a team play here from SANDBOX, right? OnFleek making the big plays onto Ucal, or Summit getting into the back line. Ghost staying alive as the Lucian and doing the most damage, even with the short range up against all that engage.
SANDBOX Gaming, they're trying to show there's still signs of life. Remember, like you say, a couple of match wins and playoffs almost guaranteed for SANDBOX.
It's a big one. They would love to take out Afreeca and feel better going into this second round. But guys, we're going to have to take a quick break before we do go into game number 2 here. SANDBOX versus Afreeca. We'll be right back.